Vav Amud Aleph will begin Hey Amud Beis, 2 lines from the bottom at the 2 dots. Amar Rav Hanan bar Rav Amar Rav Movei shenifetz. If there's a movei that had a pierce, that had an opening, it was broken open. Mitzidai bes, if it's on the side, assume that this is closed over here, this is a closed movei, it's open here to the Rishus Harabim, this is the Kaira. If there is a break on the side of it, on the side walls, if it's a break on the side, as long as it's not more than 10 amas, it's still considered to be a Pesach. It's not considered that the wall is broken open. It still retains the movei, the essential feature of a movei that you have is closed on 3 sides of a movei sosum, and therefore it still can be nitter with the kaira. You can still be matched with the kaira. That's if it's on the Meraisha Bedalit. But if it is on the top, in the front rather, then it's Bedalit. If this is a section of the wall and there is an opening. Now, if this is even Dalit Tvachim over here, then that's considered to be a Pirza. This is the opening to the movei. Perhaps we'll look at it this way. And this is the opening to the movei. If it's broken open here, the wall is broken, and even have only dalet tvachim over here, that's considered to be that the wall is broken open, and therefore this whole side is considered to be open, and therefore you have a width of that is too wide for the movei. It's more than 10. If it is more than 10, in fact, and then the movei, it cannot be knitted with the kaira. So, why do we say that as long as it's not more than 10 on the side, then we say that it's kosher? Because we say damar pischohu, we say it's not considered a pirtz, it's still only considered to be a pesach. Well, in the front, say the same thing, even though it's breached in over here in the front, say the same thing. As long as it's not more than 10 amas, it should still be considered a Pesach. Amar of Hunabraid of Yeshua, he says Enachanami, but what we're talking about in the front, what we mean in the front is not the scenario we just outlined, is what we mean over there is Kigon Shenifritza B'Keren Zovis, where the Pirza was in the Keren Zovis. So when you had for instance, if it's the wall, the opening was not on the side and it was not on the front, but rather it was B'Keren Zovis, that you had in the corner of it, it was broken open so that you have the corner was opened. There's an opening in the corner, like this. So it was broken open, and it was broken this way, so that your opening is in the corner here. You don't make a Pesach in a corner. You make a Pesach on the sides. You make a Pesach on the front, but you don't make a Pesach in a corner. So if it's broken open like that, you don't make a Pesach in the corner over here. So that's why we say that if it's within Dalet Tvachim, then it's considered still to be a closed over, but more than Dalet Tvachim already, you can't even consider it a Pesach, because in the Keren Zovis, you don't make a Pesach. Now, but Rav Huna Amar Echad, he says in both cases, it doesn't matter, it's 4 Tvachim on the side as well. We say in both cases it's 4 Tvachim. Don't argue with me, because the Rav went to this place called Machaya, and he passed in like me, and he said that even if it's 4 Tvachim, it passes it even on the side. Amrle, Rav Hanan said to Rav Huna, no, don't bring me a ride from there, because Rav Bika Motza V'Goder Bageder, that it's an expression that we use that is appropriate for this type of a case. It's an expression that we use that if the people were lax, there was a pirza and people were lax, you make a getter, you make a fence. So if there's if there's a pirza, if it's broken open, you fence it in. So he went to that place and he saw that people were being mekel and the halacha, so he's machmer in an extra way. But really, meker din, essentially, it's not that way. And not that way. If it's on the side, then it's not considered a pirza unless it's more than 10 amas. So don't bring me right from this case of Rav. Omar Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak. Kavasi the Rav Huna mistaber. He says it's more mistaber to say that Rav Huna's opinion of what Rav holds, that even a opening of Dalit of 4 tefachim on the side renders it a pirza. It's considered a pirza, it's not considered a pesach, it's considered opened, and it's broken open. Why is that? Movi okum, if you have a bent movi. Rav Amar terasik of foolish. Rav says it has a din of foolish, and Shmuel Amar terasik is awesome. Torah says it's like a mavi sasam. What's a mavi foolish and what's a mavi sasam? So till now, basically, we've been talking about a mavi sasam, imagining that this is closed, that this is a closed wall over here. So therefore, if a mavi is closed on 3 sides, then you need at the front facing the Rishus Harabim either a kaira or a lachi, and that can be matchet. That's enough to say that this is mutter. But if it's open to Rishus Harabim here, and it's open to Rishus Harabim on this side. You can't just put a kaira here, or a lechi and a lechi on that side. If it's open on both ends to the Rishus Harabim, it needs more. It needs on one end of it a tzuras HaPesach, a doorway, two mezuzahs and a mashkef, and needs a tzuras HaPesach. A tzuras HaPesach on one side, and the other side could be a lechi or kaira. Now, if you have a movi which is akum, which is an L-shaped, the question is, do we treat it as closed or open? So, for instance, let's try to envision it as follows. If you have a movi that's L-shaped, you have a Rishus Harabim on both ends of it. There's a Rishus Harabim here, and there's a Rishus Harabim over here. So view this as being a houses and chatzeres. So you have an L shape. You have an L shape where the street comes like this and comes to a bend. And then it comes on like this side and comes to view this as a Rishus Harabim. This is a Rishus Harabim. So the question is, you have a L shape, there's a bend, it's a bent movi, comes across. Do we view this as 2 separate mavois? So this is one movi. And if this is one movi, then it's closed on this side, closed on this side, and closed on this side. So do we view this as one movi? Or do we say no, it's continual and it opens over to here, so it's open. It's not considered one movi and a separate movi. It's considered to be one L-shaped movi, which is open at both ends. Do we say it's sufficient to put a kair on this end and the kair on this end? Or do we say, no, it's not 2 separate movis. It's one movi, it's open on both ends, so you need a tzuras HaPesach, a doorway on one end, and a kair here, or vice versa. Or, like the Rosh says, a doorway in the middle, tzuras HaPesach in the middle, and a lechi or kair on each end. So how do we view this? Now, the question is going to be on what is the distance over here at the bend. How wide is it? If it's very narrow, and so if it's really something like this, it's very narrow, and imagine this is being cut off, and it's very, very narrow, we would look at this as being closed. If it's very wide, we would look at this as being open. What is the shear of being wide or being narrow? So Shmuel says it's kasosum. Rav says is that it's considered like it's open, and therefore you need a tzuras HaPesach. You need a tzuras HaPesach on one end, a lechi kara on the other. And Shmuel says it's kind of closed. You don't need a tzuras of Pesach. So what are the circumstances? If you're telling me that it's more than 10, that the distance over here is more than 10 amas, so it's very wide. Well, if it's that wide, then this is considered wide open. This is not considered to be closed. Then certainly we would consider it to be one continual street that's open on both ends. So could you possibly say, in that case, Shmuel would not say that it's salsam, it's certainly considered open. It must be that it is 10 or less. And Rav says that even though it's less than 10, it's still considered to be mefulish, it's still considered to be open. So you see that even less than 10 is considered to be a pirza. Alma pirtzes mavoi mitzira bedalim. So you see that it's not, even though this is talking about the side of the mavoi, it's not talking about where it's open to the street. You see that this is a side opening of the mavoi. This is considered to be chatzeres. You see that even the side, we don't say it's 10. So it's not 10, it's dalit. It's dalit tvachim. So don't you see, like Rav Huna? Rav Chanan bar Rava, he says, no, shiny hasam dekavakoi by Rabim. He says, normally I'll tell you that if it appears on the side of the mavui, it's not considered a pirza, it's considered a pesach until 10 amas. Why over here? Yes, it's correct over here that you're right that it's even on less than 10 amas, because over here there's traffic. It's a traffic area. People are traveling on the mavui, on the streets. It's open on both ends to the Rishus Rabbah, and people are traveling through. So over here, Davka, in this type of a case where there's heavy traffic, we say that even less than 10 amas is considered to be over here opened, because there's traffic that passes through. But if you're talking about a typical mavoi, where it's broken on the side of the side walls of the mavoi, there's no heavy traffic. It's from a chutzner that's going into here, or a chutzner, there's no flow through traffic. Over there, he says the shear would be 10 tvachim and not dalet amas. Now, if you mean to say that Rav Huna says that even where there is no traffic, the shear is still dalet tvachim. If you mean to say, as you're trying to explain now, that Rav Huna says that even when there's no traffic, we say the shear is dalet tvachim. When there is heavy traffic, everybody would agree that in the case of the L shape, everyone would agree that Rav would hold that the pirza is less than 10 amas, it's dalet tvachim. But you mean to say that Rav Huna says that Rav holds, even in a case where there is no heavy traffic, even when the pirza is on the side, you mean to say that he holds that it's still dalet tvachim. So then it'll come out, you're saying, he argues on the case of Rav Ami Ravasi. Because they're talking about a case where there's no heavy traffic, and yet they say that if it's broken near the front, so it's not a major entranceway, they say it's 10 amas. So that's doichik to say that he would be arguing Rav Ami Ravasi, and according to your explanation, that's what will come out. The Gemara says no. You don't have to say he argues. No, you don't have to argue. You don't have to say there. Over there, we're talking where there's gidudi. That when it was broken over there towards the front, but there was still the edges or the ridges or the bases of the wall, of the broken wall, that will impede the traffic. So not only is there not heavy traffic, but there's something that impedes the traffic. We're talking over here, the chilik that we're saying over here is where it's an L-shaped mavoi, there's heavy traffic. where it's just in the side of the Movi and it's not open to both ends of the Rishus Haram, so there's a breach in the side wall. There's no heavy traffic, but there's nothing impeding the traffic either. We're talking in this case where not only is there no heavy traffic, but you have the Gidude, you have the ridges, or you have the edges that, or still the remnants of the wall after it was broken. You still have the remnants of it and the base of it that will impede the Rabbim from walking through. So there's something that stops them. That's a different madriga. There we say there's mamish very little traffic, so the shear is 10 amas. But Rav Huna holds that Rav holds, as long as there's no impediment, even if there's no heavy traffic, that the shear would not be 10 amas, it'll be dalet tvachim. And that is the basis of the machlokes. That's the basis of the machlokes, where we say that he holds that if there's, Rav Huna holds that if there's no heavy traffic, that whether is or isn't, if there's no impediment, the shear is dalet amas. If there's an impediment, it's 10 tvachim. And Rav Nachman Yitzchak says, no, if there's heavy traffic, Rav holds that the shear is dalet tvachim. But if there's no heavy traffic, even if there's no impediment, the shear is still would be a 10 amas. If there's heavy traffic, Rav Nachman holds that the shear would be dalet tvachim. If there is heavy traffic, even if there's no heavy traffic, rather, even if there's no impediment, the shear still would be 10 amas, not dalet tvachim.